Episode 6, Snapchat, the public photo album. There's a moment every story begins, a moment before the fear, a moment before the screenshots, a moment before the threats. And most of the time, no one remembers it as dangerous, they remember it as normal.
It was a story reply, a fire emoji, a compliment that felt innocent, a username she didn't recognize, but she didn't question it either.
Because everyone adds people on Snapchat. Everyone replies to stories, everyone starts streaks with strangers. That's literally how the app works.
His Bitmoji looked friendly. His Snap score was high. He had mutuals from her school, so she assumed he was real.
And that's the first mistake predators count on. Not fear, not ignorance, but familiarity.
The first snap was nothing, a filter, a smile, a picture that vanished in 10 seconds. No evidence, no trace, no warning.
By the second day, he was talking to her about classes. By the third day, he knew her lunch break. By the fourth day, he knew which bus she took home.
He said he was 17. He said he went to a nearby school. He said he'd seen her around.
He said she seemed quiet. He said she seemed different. He said she didn't act like other girls.
He said everything she wanted to hear.
Every snap disappeared, but every word stayed.
He sent selfies, she sent selfies. He sent voice notes, she sent voice notes. It felt like a friendship.
Until he started asking for pictures she did not want to send.
Until he started getting angry when she didn't reply fast enough.
Until he started asking where she was right now.
And when she tried to pull away, he didn't let her.
He said she owed him.
He said she let him on.
He said he had screenshots.
He said he knew her school.
And that's when the snaps stopped disappearing. That's when the fear started.
That's when she realized she wasn't talking to a boy.
She was talking to a predator. And the worst part?
She thought it was her fault.
She thought she should have known better.
She thought she was the only one.
She thought no one would believe her.
But this story isn't rare.
It happens every day.
In bedrooms.
On school buses.
In the middle of the night.
On phones that parents think are safe.
On an app designed to erase evidence.
On a platform where strangers feel familiar.
On a screen that makes danger feel distant.
On Snapchat.
This is not a cautionary tale.
This is a reality.
And this is happening right now.
To someone listening to this.
To someone you know.
This is Caught in the Web.
And this is how online predation begins.
Before we dive into today's discussion, we want to pause and speak directly to everyone listening.
You're tuned into Caught in the Web, a podcast exploring the online spaces where teens, young adults, and even children connect, create, and share, but where danger can hide in plain sight.
I'm Sav, and I'm here with my co-hosts,
Alina,
Leah,
Nashi,
and Riki.
Each of us has grown up navigating the digital world. From social media apps to gaming platforms, we've seen firsthand how something that feels safe can quickly become risky if the wrong person gets involved.
We created this podcast to give you the tools, knowledge, and awareness to navigate those spaces safely, and to show you that you are never alone in online environments.
Today, we're focusing on Snapchat.
This is a content warning. This episode will include discussions about grooming, manipulation, coercion, and exploitation. Some of the examples we share might feel upsetting. That's okay. Take a pause if you need to. Step away, breathe, and come back when you're ready.
Your mental and emotional well-being is the most important thing.
You are not weak for asking for help. You are not overreacting for being cautious. These situations are serious, and awareness is your first line of protection.
There are support systems available 24 hours and for anyone who needs guidance, advice, or just someone to talk to.
For Canadians, that includes Cybertip.ca, the national tip line for reporting online child sexual exploitation. Kids Help Phone, available anytime, confidential and free for you, needing for guidance or support. NeedHelpNow.ca, which provides step-by-step advice if someone threatens to share images or videos.
And if you're outside Canada, you can find similar hotlines in your country or reach out to a trusted adult, teacher, counselor, or mentor.
It's important to understand that safety isn't just about avoiding danger. It's about empowerment, knowing what to watch for, understanding patterns, and taking action when something feels off.
Today's episode, I will help you recognize subtle warning signs, understand how online predators operate, and identify strategies to protect yourself.
We'll also make connections to lessons from episode 1 through 5. For example, episode 1 asked, "Who are you really talking to on the other side of the screen?" That question is more important than ever on Snapchat, where disappearing messages and private stories can make tracking interactions very tricky.
And episode 5, which focused on Roblox, showed us how predators can operate in playful, seemingly safe spaces, building trust before boundaries are even set. That same principle applies here.
Even though Snapchat is different from Roblox, Twitch, or Meta apps, the patterns of manipulation often remain the same. Small asks, secrecy, and pressure over time.
We'll talk about how these patterns look specifically on Snapchat, why they're dangerous, and how to spot them before they escalate.
We want to stress, this isn't about scaring you into never using apps. It's about equipping you with knowledge, tools, and awareness. Knowledge is power, and awareness saves us.
And as you listen today, remember that the platforms themselves aren't evil. The danger comes from people who misuse them.
That's why understanding context is key. A funny filter, a private streak, or a disappearing message might seem innocent, but in combination with manipulation tactics, it can be dangerous.
We'll give examples, share evidence, and connect the dots between Snapchat and the other platforms we've explored.
Because learning isn't just about one app. It's about recognizing the same pattern across multiple spaces.
We also want you to know that your voice, your safety, and your experience matter. Speaking up early, trusting your instincts, and seeking support can prevent harm.
So take a deep breath, get comfortable, and remember, you are not alone in this digital space.
Alright, now that we've set the stage, let's dive into Snapchat, the app that's fun, fast, private, and when misused, can be risky. Snapchat isn't just another app teens scroll through. It's where communication feels fast, private, and personal. The interface is designed for quick, daily interactions that become a habit almost without noticing.
And that habitual use is exactly what makes it unique. Teens open Snapchat multiple times a day, sometimes dozens of times, just to maintain streaks, check stories, or reply to friends. That rhythm creates a predictable pattern which predators can exploit.
What sets Snapchat apart is the sense of privacy it gives. Messages disappear, stories vanish, and streaks encourage frequent messaging. It's a space that feels intimate, even safe, but that's a very sense of safety that can mask potential risks.
Another factor is immediacy. Streaks and quick responses create subtle pressure. Teens often feel compelled to reply instantly, which can make it harder to pause and evaluate whether a request or conversation is safe.
Snapchat also gamifies social interaction. Filters, lenses, streak badges. All of these encourage daily engagement. Fun as it is, it keeps users constantly connected and make them overlook warning signs of manipulation.
And don't forget private stories. They feel like an extension of social life, a way to share with only your close friends. But that privacy can be used to monitor, influence, or isolate someone over time.
So Snapchat matters because it captures the modern teen experience. Friendships, self-expression, and daily connection. But predators see the same environment as an opportunity. Understanding how these apps can be misused is key to staying safe while still enjoying the app.
This episode isn't about avoiding Snapchat altogether. It's about recognizing the risk hidden in its design and learning strategies to protect yourself. Coming up, we'll explore patterns of predation, small asks, platform switching, and other subtle tactics.
How Snapchat works. Alright, before we dive into risks, let's make sure everyone's on the same page about how Snapchat works. At its core, Snapchat is built for quick visual communication.
First, snaps. These are photos or short videos you send to friends. They disappear after being viewed, which sounds fun and private, but that disappearing feature can be misused. Someone could pressure you to send something personal, knowing it won't leave a trace. At least, that's the illusion.
Next, we have stories. These are visible for 24 hours and can be shared with all your friends or just a selected group. They're fun for sharing daily life. but predators can use story replies to initiate conversation with strangers or manipulate someone subtly over time.
Then there are streaks. These little numbers that track how many consecutive days you've exchanged snaps with someone. They may seem harmless, but streaks can create a subtle pressure. Teens might feel forced to respond even when they're uncomfortable. And that's exactly the kind of small leverage predators look for.
Don't forget the private chats. These are direct messages between two groups or people. They can include text, images, or videos. While chats feel secure, predators can isolate targets here, slowly building trust or asking for information without anyone else noticing.
Filters and lenses make snaps playful. Funny faces, effects, augmented reality overlays. But they also offer a way for someone to play with you to gain trust. A predator might send a filter snap repeatedly to appear fun and relatable, all while starting to manipulate your attention or emotions.
And then there's SnapMap. This shows your location to friends in real time. While it can be great for meeting up safely with people you know, it can also be used by someone to monitor your movements, learn routines, or identify when you're alone.
So each feature, snaps, stories, streaks, private chats, filters, snap map, has a dual side, fun, creative, and social, but with the potential, if it exploited, of someone knows how to manipulate these tools.
The key takeaway is this: understanding the features isn't about fear, it's about awareness. Knowing how the app works gives you power to recognize unusual behavior and protect yourself.
Exactly. Now that we've covered the basics of Snapchat, we can move into how predation patterns appear in real life, and why small, seemingly innocent actions can escalate into manipulation. The illusion of privacy. Let's talk about privacy on Snapchat. The disappearing messages, quick snaps, and private chats make it feel safe, but that safety can be deceptive. Even playful apps can be exploited.
Take screenshots, for example. Snapchat notifies you if someone takes one, but there are ways around it. Remember in episode 2, Meta apps, how third-party apps could bypass alerts. The same principle applies here.
Screen recording is another risk. Videos, stories, or chats can be captured without you even knowing. Back in episode 4, Twitch, predators collect live interactions. Snapchat just makes this fast and more private.
Safe chats are also a factor. Disappearing messages aren't always gone. Even older platforms like episode 3, TikTok showed how safe conversation could be used to manipulate someone over time.
And outside the app, backup accounts and cloud storage can keep messages alive. In episode 5, Roblox, targets were moved to private servers or alternative accounts to isolate them. On Snapchat, similar tactics happens with secondary accounts or cloud backups.
All of this contributes to serious risks like sextortion. Teens often think their snaps vanish forever, but predators can save and use them to manipulate or threat, just like in episode 2 Meta apps.
The lesson is simple. Snapchat's disappearing feature doesn't guarantee safety. Even a quick, fun snap can be exploited if you're not careful.
Awareness is key. Pause before sending anything personal. Episode 3 TikTok reminded us that even small bits of information can be collected and misused.
Technology can delete a snap, but it can't undo a manipulation.
Remember, it's not about fear. It's about knowing the limits of what private really means and taking control of your digital space.
Recognizing red flags on Snapchat. Now that we've gone over Snapchat's features and the illusion of privacy, let's dive into something crucial: the red flags. And not just what they are, but how they connect to predation. Understanding the why behind these signs can make them easier to spot.
Take streak pressure, for example. At first, it seems harmless, someone teasing you to keep your streak alive. But predators use this streak to build dependence. They create a new sense of obligation so you feel like you have to respond daily. The consistent contact can be the first step in grooming.
Private chats and secret conversations are another big one. When someone insists on keeping messages away from friends or family, it isolates you. Isolation is one of the main tools predators use. They want you to feel like this is just between us, so there's no outside perspective.
Requests for personal or intimate snaps are a serious warning sign. Even if it starts with just a selfie or a filter, predators often escalate gradually. It's called the small ask technique, gaining trust with something small, then building to bigger demands.
Story manipulation works similarly. If someone presses you to reply privately to a story or overreacts to not getting attention, they're testing boundaries and practicing emotional manipulation. It's about control, seeing how far they can push you for your responses.
Watch out for backup accounts or moving to other apps. Predators often try to escape oversight. On Snapchat, they might suggest another account or platform to keep the interaction hidden. This ensures no record, no witnesses, a classic predatory tactic.
Even emojis, filters, and playful compliments can be manipulative. They're not just fun. Predators use these tools to normalize attention, make you feel special, and gradually create dependency. It's subtle, but it works.
Fast response pressure is another classic tactic. Snap me now, or don't wait too long to reply. It's about urgency. Predators want to reduce the time you have to think, reflect, or check with someone you trust. That quick feedback loop keeps you hooked and compliant.
And let's not forget snap map or location request. Sharing your location can put you at real world risk. Predators can use this information to know your routines, predict where you are, and manipulate when and how they contact you.
Finally, emotional manipulation through streaks, reactions, chats is extremely common. Feeling guilted, pressured, or overly responsible for someone's attention, exactly the kind of control predators exploit. They want you to feel dependent on them emotionally, which is a core grooming technique.
So here's the takeaway. Snapchat's features, disappearing messages, private chats, streaks, stories, filters make communication fast, fun, and immersive. But predators exploit every one of these features to isolate, manipulate, and gain trust.
Recognizing these patterns early is your defense. It's not paranoia, it's understanding how predation operates in real online spaces, especially on apps designed for fast, private interactions.
Boundaries are powerful. If something feels off, pause, reflect, and reach out. Predators rely on speed, secrecy, and normalizing attention. Knowing the warning signs lets you take control.
Exactly. Every red flag is a potential doorway for manipulation. On Snapchat, the door can look fun and normal, but predators know exactly which ones to open.
The key is watch for pressure, secrecy, manipulation, and urgency. Each of these connects directly to how grooming and predation happens online. So recognizing them is the first step towards safety.
How grooming starts on Snapchat. Alright listeners, now that we know the red flags, let's break down how grooming actually starts on Snapchat. It often seems harmless at first, just friendly messages, jokes, or fun filters, but predators follow a step-by-step pattern to gain trust and control.
Step 1 is often story replies. Someone sees your story, maybe a selfie, a joke, or a quick update, and responds casually. It feels normal, fun even, but for a predator, it's a way to start a one-on-one conversation and isolate you from your group.
Then comes the compliments. You look great in that filter. Or, haha, love that streak you have with your best friend. Compliments create a sense of connection. They're not just for flattery, they're for the first steps in building emotional dependence, which is critical for grooming.
Next, filters and playful interaction. Sending silly selfies, using AR lenses, or sharing private snaps with funny edits seems harmless, right? But predators use this playfulness to normalize daily interactions. It creates a routine, so you start expecting messages and engagement every day.
And that's where daily snaps and streaks come in. Streaks are fun, they're also a game. But for predators, streaks are a tool to create obligation and consistency. They make you feel like you have to respond every day. Missing a snap can feel like breaking a promise. Exactly what predators rely on to keep control.
Then over time, an emotional connection develops. They start sharing personal stories, asking about your day, listening to your problems. It feels supportive, even like friendship. But this is grooming. They're investing in you emotionally so they can influence and manipulate you later.
Don't tell anyone about this chat. This is just between us, or your friends wouldn't understand. Isolation is one of the most effective tools predators have. Once you feel like it's private, the influence grows, and suddenly you're part of a dynamic that's not healthy.
So, the sequence looks like this. First, there's a story reply, then it comes a compliment, then maybe we'll have some playful filters. Daily snaps, streak building, emotional connection, and of course, secrecy within it all. Each step feels pretty casual. Each step feels normal. But the combination is what allows manipulation to take root.
And here's the thing. Grooming doesn't happen overnight. It's a gradual, small steps, subtle reinforcement. On Snapchat, the disappearing messages make this harder to trace. It's like the predator is teaching you how to interact in a private, controlled space without evidence.
That's exactly what's critical, to be aware of patterns, not just isolated actions. One compliment isn't dangerous, one streak isn't a problem, but repeated behaviors, emotion dependency, and secrecy, that's grooming in action.
That's why it's critical to be aware of patterns, not just isolated actions. And remember, this is why prevention strategies are so important. If you can recognize the first few steps, you can stop it before it escalates. Awareness is your first line of defense.
Exactly. Grooming on Snapchat is subtle, fast, and emotionally manipulative. By understanding each step from story replies to secrecy, you can start to spot the patterns and protect yourself.
The patterns of predation. Now that we've talked about how grooming starts, it's time to look at the bigger picture. The patterns predators use to manipulate teens. On Snapchat, these patterns are subtle, but extremely consistent. Once you know them, you can start recognizing them early.
The first pattern is small asks. This is where predators test boundaries. It starts tiny. Send me a selfie. Add me on another account. What's your streak with so-and-so? Each task seems harmless on its own, but over time they accumulate, building a profile of your habits and vulnerabilities.
Next, platform hopping within Snapchat itself. They might start a conversation on your main account that suggests moving into a backup on a private account. Each hop isolates you and gives them more control over where and how you communicate, making intervention harder.
Then there's isolation. Predators often frame secrecy as intimacy. Don't tell your friends. They wouldn't understand. This is just between us. It feels personal, special, and trusted. But it's a way to prevent oversight and create dependency.
Another key pattern is urgency. Predators could pressure to respond quickly. Send me this right now. You only have 10 minutes. Or if you don't snap back, I'll be upset. Urgency prevents reflection and stops you from asking for advice, which keeps control firmly in their hands.
Guilt is also used. If you block me, I'll be heartbroken. You're hurting me. I don't care about our friendship anymore. These subtle emotional manipulations make you feel responsible for their feelings, even though you haven't done anything wrong.
Finally, there are broader control tactics. These can include emotional manipulation, secrecy, and slow escalation, making teens feel like their loyalty, attention, or personal information is owed to the predator. Snapchat's disappearing messages and private stories make these tactics even more effective because there's little trace left for oversight.
So, to summarize, the patterns kind of look like this. Small asks come to testing boundaries. Account hopping means to isolate communication. Isolating communication also leads to isolation, which framing secrecy as intimacy. Having that with the streaks, we have urgency, so we limit the reflection and intervention points. And having guilt even added to that, the emotional leverage overall takes over as well. So controlling tactics gradually escalate and relies on dependence on them. Each of these steps individually may feel minor, but combined, they form a predictable pattern of predation.
And it's important to note, These patterns aren't random. They repeat across Snapchat, interactions, disappearing messages, streaks, pressure, private stories. Predators adapt to the platform to exploit trust and curiosity.
Recognizing patterns is the key to predation. That's my small asks, noticing account hopping, and recognizing when someone is pushing secrecy or urgency. You can take a step back before the manipulation escalates.
Exactly. Awareness turns what seems like normal social interactions into an opportunity to protect yourself. And it's not about paranoia, it's about understanding how online behavior can be exploited.
Up next, we'll break it down with a structure lens, the 5 W's, then move into resources, safety tips, and what to do if it's happening.
The 5 W's: understanding Snapchat predation.
Alright, listeners, now that we've gone through the patterns of predation on Snapchat, it's time for a structured way to understand what's happening. We like to call it 5 W's: who, what, when, where, and why. This framework helps you see the bigger picture and even spot connections with patterns we've discussed in previous episodes.
Oh yeah, Leah, exactly. Think of this as a lens. Roblox, Meta apps, TikTok, and Twitch. All these platforms show similar tactics. Snapchat is just the latest evolution. So, Alina, who's affected?
Let's start with who is targeted. Most often, predators focus on teens,
Which age group mostly?
usually aged 12 to 17, the same age groups we looked at on Meta apps in episode 2 and in episode 1.
It's not just type of teen. Anyone active posting stories and participating in streaks or replying to friends, snaps can be targeted. Predators are opportunists, not selective. This is mirror the patterns we saw on TikTok in episode 3, where teens engaging in private messaging were most at risk.
But remember, both girls and boys can be affected. Even peer-to-peer exploitation occurs, like the situationships we highlighted in Twitch episode 4.
The key takeaway is being social online isn't wrong, but it does create opportunities predators seek, a theme we've seen across every episode.
Next is what? What happens when predation occurs on Snapchat?
It starts with small, seemingly harmless interactions, story replies, daily snaps, compliments, or playful filters. Predators build slowly trust, layer by layer. This strategy is similar to what we discussed on Roblox in episode 5, where small interactions gradually escalated.
Then comes escalation, private chats, backup accounts, requests for personal info or images. Isolation and urgency appear, making it harder to step away or to seek help.
Even without explicit content, leverage can be built from streaks or inside jokes. Episode 2, Meta apps, showed us that fun interaction can quickly be turned into manipulative control if predators know how to escalate subtly.
So, when does this usually happen?
Time-wise, unmonitored periods after school, evenings, weekends, and school breaks are prime. We saw similar timing exploited on Twitch in episode 4.
It all ties back. Age-wise, early to mid-teens, when social validation is critical. The same patterns appeared on Meta apps in episode 2 and at Roblox in episode 5.
Sometimes escalation is slow, sometimes it's rapid. Disappearing messages on Snapchat can make the process go even faster, echoing the immediacy as we discussed on Twitch in episode 4.
Let's talk about where predation happens on Snapchat.
Tier 1. Private chats and DMs, the most common hidden from peers and adults. Episode 3. Facebook also had private inbox spaces that predators exploited.
Tier 2. Story replies and private stories. They seem harmless, but can be the first step in isolation, much like DMs in episode 2.
Tier 3 Account hopping or backup accounts. Predators move victims to other accounts or apps similar to cross platform tactics we highlighted with Roblox in episode 5.
Any space giving privacy and exclusivity is a potential risk. Snapchat just packages it in a fun, addictive way.
Finally, why predators do this?
Motives include power and control, testing how much influence they can exert, something we also discussed in Roblox episode 2.
Sexual exploitation is another motivator. Snapchat's disappearing messages and private stories makes it an ideal playground for coercion. Episode 2, Meta apps had similar risk with disappearing direct messaging interactions.
Sometimes predators seek emotional manipulation or tension. The pattern repeats across platforms like Meta apps, Twitch, Roblox, Snapchat just creates and accelerates the process.
The common thread: opportunity, vulnerability, and control. Packaged in a platform teens trust and enjoy.
So, there you have it, the 5 W's of Snapchat predation. To summarize everything that we talked about, we'll be jumping into an interview with Ruhi.
So, we are Caught in the Web podcast, a podcast that talks about online predation and online safety. Today, we're joined by Ruhi Uwe, a representative for Center of Exploitation Education. I am Riti, and my groupmates are Nashi, Savi, Leah. A disclosure before we start: everything said today is based on Ruhi's expertise, and some facts may differ. So I'm gonna jump straight into my first question for you. Can you explain the mission of the Center of Exploitation Education and the work you do with the youth?
Yeah, of course. So we were founded by Tiana Sharifi, who is absolutely amazing, and it is a nonprofit organization that aims to prevent exploitation and human trafficking and gender-based violence and just online harm overall and things that really affect people all across the world. And really, I feel like the work that we do mostly is presenting in schools and communities. Like, for example, we have reached over 150,000 youth, and we have trained many adults, as well as presenting different schools and communities to raise awareness about these key issues. And I think overall, our mission is just to spread awareness to the form of education, which is really important, I feel like.
Yes, thank you so much for that. What gaps in youth online safety does your organization aim to address, like specifically?
Okay, I think there's regarding online safety and just, I think safety in general for a lot of young people, there's this common misconception that exploitation or trafficking can look very obvious. For example, a man in a white van coming to pick up a little girl. But often I think many platforms such as Snapchat or Instagram or Facebook and such are actually very subtle ways that young people can be exploited. And I think online safety is so important to address these issues. And our organization tries to, bring conversation about these subtle ways that young people or just people in general can be exploited and used. And I just overall think it's really important to place emphasis on those less obvious ways of exploitation. And I think that's a gap that we're trying to address.
Okay, thank you for that. So my partner is gonna ask you the next question.
What age groups do you currently work with, and why is early education important?
Okay, so we mainly work with, I would say, preteens to teens. So mostly people in their high school years, people who are attending high school, as that's when we do the presentations that are in person. And I think that it's so important to educate people at a young age because many quote unquote, risky behaviors can start before youth. As I guess increasingly social media is becoming more prevalent, more younger people are having access to social media. I see some people literally in elementary school who have Instagram or like TikTok and Snapchat. And I think because at that such young age you already have social media, it comes with a great responsibility to educate themselves on such issues. And I think really it's important to really have that in-depth talk about, for example, like private messaging, just like all the safety hazards on social media to really get that ingrained and for a younger child to understand that what is okay and what is not okay before they grow older and they try more daring behaviors. So I feel like honestly early education is so important because then
you have that language surrounding, online safety. And also, I think it just creates more awareness and creates more caution about certain risks that are to come.
I love that answer. We did like a streeter at like Mentortown, and the amount of people we found out like had social media so early and the regrets they had was like it makes sense why we want to have education really early on. So for my next question is, how do you approach difficult online safety topics in a way that empowers rather than scares youth?
Okay, yeah. I think this is a really good question because I feel like many of the issues that we aim to address are somewhat considered taboo. At least I could think when I was growing up, when I was a bit younger, it was very hard to talk about these topics because, well, it was just not normal. It was not perceived as normal. And if someone was, for example, a victim of sextortion, for example, it was seen as very humiliating and bad and just really something that people wanted to avoid to talk about. And I think that's a really important part about sharing the message of awareness, right? I think it's important to like normalize, you know, using social media with very much a lot of caution and care because of these things that can happen. And I think it's important to not focus on, blaming the young people who have been exploited or have been victims on such social media, but looking at what patterns caused this, right? What people are targeting these victims. And I think there shouldn't ever be like the stigma around victims because I think victim blaming again is so prevalent because many people will just think that they shouldn't have done this, they shouldn't have done that. But that's just really a big mistake that many people make in trying to educate because it just scares people away and doesn't encourage conversation. I think it's really important to, even after, it's very important to offer victims support and understanding. And then moving forward, we can look at how to prevent before something bad actually happens instead of trying to, I guess, cure it after it happens. So I think just talking about hard topics is very important to establish understanding with everyone, right? Looking at all different perspectives and not try to intimidate, like not necessarily try to scare people off, but just try to give the facts that really show the very dark side of social media and things like that.
I had a follow-up question for that. You mentioned how like people didn't talk a lot about this before, like a while ago. Why do you think that was?
Honestly, I just feel like there's a lot of stigma around things like sexual exploitation because it can be seen as very humiliating and very demeaning. And often it's such a prevalent thing of victim blaming with such cases that many people, if they are a victim of it, they feel the need to not tell anybody. They feel the need to hide it to themselves, which is so harmful, but it's really a sad reality that we all live in.
Okay, thank you.
Alright.
For the next question is, what trends have you noticed recently and how young people experience risk online? Why is Snapchat an important platform to focus on when talking about seeing online safety?
Yeah, so I think recently there has just been a lot of normalization of just super quick conversations, right? They have a lot of escalation. So for example, if someone were to go on Snapchat and add someone, in a matter of minutes, it could escalate to something very, very different from what is intended to be. It could be very risky, could be very explicit. I just think that many people on social media platforms are now, I guess, without a filter and just say things when they want to. And I feel like because of that, there's an increased normalization of sexualized content, especially between minors, which is not good. And I also just feel like there's a lot of pressure coming from different peers, not just adults, right? Just for example, high school friends that encourage others to, go on Snapchat, to keep a snap streak, to snap and add a bunch of different people. And I think just that trend of over communication and increasing, communication mediums is like a big risk. And I feel like every now and then there's going to be a new platform that comes out that has new ways of exploitation. For example, I know a while ago, Be Real was very popular, and now there's this app called 1010. Just basically all the time, new applications are coming out as mediums of communication, and those mediums often have their own type of flaw that allows for exploitation on them. And I think you mentioned about Snapchat. I think why Snapchat is perhaps one of the most the biggest platforms where exploitation happens so much is because it's designed specifically for speed and privacy and intimacy. Because I'm sure you guys know the messages disappear, the snaps can disappear as well, and there's just a lot of it's very secretive. And I feel like because of that, many people have a false sense of security surrounding Snapchat, and when something bad happens, it's not very expected.
Oh, yeah. So you already mentioned a little bit about this, but like, what other features do you think Snapchat have that make it so appealing? Like, because a lot of kids nowadays, like the first social media app they have is Snapchat because everyone thinks it's so safe.
Yeah, so I think Snapchat is really just a blend of a lot of the good features you can see in other social media apps. So, for example, I think obviously snapping is the biggest thing, sending back and forth messages or, I mean, photos and videos very quickly, and they disappear. So, people think that it's safe. They think that it's a fun type of moment sharing, and also messaging is very accessible. And also, the Snap map, you can always see where your friends are, you can see what your friends are doing, you guys can see the map and where people live. I think that makes people very interested. And at the same time, you can also see like shorts and videos and stories. So I feel like because it's such a balance of fun applications, many people are very appealed to it. And because on Snapchat, obviously there's things like streaks and people are pressured to keep those streaks and having like best friends and things like that. Because I feel like Snapchat has its own very intimate social network. So a lot of if your friends are on Snapchat, then it's very hard for you not to be in Snapchat if you want to continue being such great friends and I guess to be involved in activities that they're doing.
My next question will be, how do disappearing messages and private snaps affect how teens perceive safety or risk?
Yeah, so I think I touched on this a little earlier, but because the snaps they usually disappear, I think, right after snapping or after 24 hours, which is also a pretty short amount of time. People think that, oh, this photo I sent is never going to be seen again. It's going to be gone. So I can just send whatever I want because nobody's going to see it after this one time or after 24 hours, right? And I think that creates a false sense of security because because Snapchat has this thing where if you screenshot, it'll tell the other party. But that's not often the case. I know there's definitely other applications and people who honestly can take screenshots without it notifying or just taking a picture on another device. And that's so harmful because people will think the snap is going to them, they'll see it once and never again. But that's not true because they can keep it and they can share it. And that's why I feel like Snapchat creates such a false sense of security. And I think overall, because of this false sense of security, it encourages riskier texting and sharing. And it creates this like, oh, it'll be gone anyway mindset and just encourages people to share things that they normally wouldn't share in messaging apps that do not disappear.
Why do some youth believe that Snapchat is safer than other platforms?
Yeah, I think Snapchat can seem safer because there's not a lot of posting, right? Because, for example, on apps like Instagram, you have a public post that literally everyone can see. But in Snapchat, you don't necessarily have that. So some people think, oh, so not everyone can see what I'm doing, not everyone can see what I'm posting. So then they post things that are more intimate, more personal. But that's not actually the case, right? And same with again, like screenshotting disappearing messages. People think that, oh, if they screenshotted this, I would know. But in fact, many cases people don't know because other people will use other applications or devices to actually screenshot that. And I just feel like people think that Snapchat is safer because there's a misunderstanding. I think there's this big misconception about Snapchat in which people think that, that mindset that's what happens on Snapchat stays on Snapchat, but that's not true as things can often get leaked into other group chats, into other social media, in which those things are actually more permanent.
The next question is, in general terms, how can Snapchat be used in ways that cross safety boundaries?
Oh, yes. I think Snapchat can often cross safety boundaries because I think there's just so much, like I mentioned earlier, there's a really big escalation on Snapchat, right? Often, to be completely honest, on Snapchat, someone can add you and then right away ask for an explicit picture or video or just say some very explicit and derogatory things. And that is perceived nowadays is perceived normal for Snapchat. But obviously that's not normal at all, right? If that was happening on, say, Instagram, that would be very odd. That would not be happening at all. And I think because of this normalization of like sexualized behavior on Snapchat, there's more people who are willing to think that, okay, this is a Snapchat thing only. So if I send this explicit picture, if I receive an explicit picture, it's okay because it's a Snapchat thing. And this mentality is so harmful because, again, these pictures don't just stay on Snapchat or just disappear. They can literally be shared to other people, to other forms of communication. And yeah, I think that's just basically why Snapchat can cross many safety boundaries.
As we know, like Snapchat can cross so many safety boundaries. What types of warning signs should young people look out for on Snapchat conversations?
Yeah, I think obviously the first main one is anybody who asks for an explicit picture. That is a huge red flag. But also more subtle, I think some people who will say, send you something, tell you something less explicit, but then always be saying, don't tell anyone, this stays between us, don't tell anybody, don't screenshot, just things like that. Often that kind of language can really, I feel like, be a warning sign. And I think just pushing personal boundaries, and this just applies to any conversation, any in general, just pushing boundaries repeatedly is very harmful and a big red flag. And I honestly just think that just making anybody feel uncomfortable and then making that discomfort feel like they're overreacting is also just a huge red flag as well.
So, why do situations on Snapchat sometimes escalate further than on other social media platforms?
Yeah, I think Snapchat is that one media where most people are going to be on because personally, I know that Snapchat people often will, even if there is a built-in like camera app, people will still go on Snapchat to take videos. And that's honestly just many people's go-to app for just when you open your phone, that's just the first thing that you go to, right? And because of that, I think there's, for example, people expect instant replies and they think about this private environment that Snapchat creates, which is not necessarily true. And also, I think that again, there's just this pressure to maintain streaks with people, many who are like, oh, snap me back, let's keep our streak. And also just honestly, I feel like the emotion, just the intensity of Snapchat as an app, just how fast things escalate, and just overall the dynamic of the app, which is very algorithm heavy and also just full of adding new people and making new connections.
So our next question is, what are the most important Snapchat safety habits every teen should know?
I think that honestly on Snapchat, it's just very important to be extremely aware of everything. So for example, keep in mind always that when you're on Snapchat that not everyone, in fact, not a lot of people will have good intentions, especially when it's someone who's just added you, I guess. So I feel like it's just really important to always stay vigilant and just be very careful on Snapchat. And I think honestly, in general, Snapchat is just a platform that not a lot of people should just spend too much time on because I feel like it does create a lot of pressure, for example, to continue to do streaks, to text people, and to keep a consistent best friends list and whatnot.
My next question is, what role does peer pressure plays on apps like Snapchat?
Oh, I think peer pressure plays a really, really large role on Snapchat because, again, Snapchat is such a big platform with many group chats and communities and things like that. And I think that it, normalizes many times unsafe behavior. And because many people have a shared experience, so for example, people click adding and asking for explicit pictures, then people will feel like if they point that out, it's going to be dramatic and, to kind of play along with it to fit in and to seem normal. And yeah, I just feel like there's this huge pressure to fit in and keep attention. Another thing I want to mention is on Snapchat, I'm sure everyone is familiar with like your Snap score, and people think that the highest your Snap score is, the, I guess, better and more popular and more friends you have. And the Snap score is influenced by how many snaps you send. So if someone had, for example, a million Snap score, people would think, wow, this person is very cool. They have a lot of friends. They are very popular. But that just entails sending so many snaps, which is not very healthy. And honestly, I feel like Snapchat just has this really big culture of comparing people as well. Like I see on different stories, just people posting different things that really urge comparison between others, which is very negative, of course.
So, despite all of these negative factors, how can young people enjoy Snapchat while still protecting their privacy and their boundaries?
Yeah, of course. Personally, I know that Snapchat is very, very harmful. It can be very harmful, but I still use Snapchat very often to communicate with my friends because I know I can use it in a safe manner. So I would say it's so important to not add people that you don't know in real life. So make sure that you always know who's in your Snapchat. Personally, in my experience in the past, I had like many hundreds of friends, but I like unadded them all and limited to like only my close friends who I know. And I think it's also important to, for example, like adjust your privacy settings intentionally to make sure that random people don't discover you. And always, I think, understand who you're talking to because it may seem like a nice boy your age, but it could be, for example, a 50-year-old man sitting behind a computer. And always be aware that what you say online, just imagine what you're saying online is you're saying to the whole world or you're sending to the whole world. So if you don't want that to be something that people think of you, if you don't want that to be something that people can see, then try not to send it online because it can be a screenshot and screenshots often will get leaked and they can last forever. And I think it's important to not feel pressured to do anything, to be coerced and do anything. And often, if trust your gut feeling and if you ever feel uncomfortable, just block that person or report them early before something bad goes down. And yeah, and I feel like honestly on Snapchat, it's important to know that you don't owe anybody anything. You don't have to keep your 300-day streak. You don't have to keep your best friend still your best friend on Snapchat or have a very high Snap score. I think just use it how you would any other normal social media platform and just have fun and be safe.
What should a young person do if they realize a Snapchat interaction isn't safe?
I think that it's so important to always tell a trusted adult because I understand that there is such a huge stigma around Snapchat and just around bad things happening to young people. But the first step to, I guess, getting help is to tell somebody who you can trust. And then okay, before all this, of course, lock the person, report that person, and then tell someone that you trust. And then just, I guess, try to understand more about the issue. Like, for example, was someone asking for an explicit photo? Did somebody send an explicit photo? And understand that, quick adding and things like that do have such negative consequences. So it's always important to be careful. And again, if it's something that very, very bad happened, then it's important to seek professional help, for example, from a therapist or just from someone like, our organization who can really help people with this.
What options exist for reporting unsafe behavior on Snapchat, and why is reporting important?
So on Snapchat, I'm pretty sure that there's always a reporting option. So just if you see an account, you can always report it if it makes you feel uncomfortable. But I feel like moreover, it's less about within the app and reporting it to like Snapchat themselves because I'm sure they get hundreds and thousands of reports every single day. It's also important to report that behavior to a trusted adult, like I mentioned, or to, for example, a school counselor, just someone who you trust who can, I guess, educate you more about the risks of certain social media platforms such as Snapchat. And why is reporting important? I think it's so important because then it helps you understand, okay, this is really wrong. And if I tell someone, they can, I guess, tell me about it, why that was wrong, what to do moving forward if it was very harmful. And I think also just people reporting gives people a better sense of what is going on and how to avoid things like that in the future. And it also gives organizations like us an like more understanding of certain apps like Snapchat and how when people report them, what they say about it, like what are the certain risks, what usually happens, the trends, and helps us understand, I guess, what we can do to support people better.
I have one more question. How can teens reach out for help without fear of getting in trouble or thinking because this happened to them, they might get in trouble because they were talking to someone strange or something?
Yeah, I understand. That's a very big part. And I think so many times people are very scared to especially tell their parents because they think that they'll get in trouble. They think that their parents are going to get mad at them. But honestly, if someone is very scared of the parents and their reactions, I think, of course, it's always important to tell a trusted adult. But for example, tell a counselor, tell a therapist, tell a school counselor, tell a teacher first so that they can help you. And if it was an extremely severe situation, I'm sure it'll definitely get escalated to authorities. And if it was like a lesser issue or just, I guess, not as severe, I think it's just important to get advice and get understanding from certain adults. And I feel like it's just teens should not fear trouble in general because they are often victims of something bad that's happened to them, and they shouldn't be ashamed what happened because that's not their fault, but the fault of some other person who tried to exploit them.
How can your organization support youth after they've had an unsafe online experience?
Yeah, so our organization, okay, I want to talk a little bit more about this, but I want to first talk about like preemptive measures, right? So before anything bad even happens to certain youth, we try to spread awareness. So a lot of our content is focused on preventing things like that happening, preventing, for example, sextortion apps like Snapchat, and just raising awareness so that things like this happen less frequently. But in the case that does happen, and it's okay if it happens, or it's okay for the victim to understand that it's often a normal occurrence and that they shouldn't blame themselves if it does happen. And in that case, our organization just offer a lot of support. Many people will reach out to us anonymously, of course, using our Instagram or just emailing us about their experience. And most of the time will email them back or text them back with advice, with legal advice even. And I think just things like that can really help people. And often we also just have materials. We have a lot on our website if you guys want to check it out of these issues, how to prevent them, and what to do if they do happen. So I think it's a very good resource for people who haven't had any bad experience to understand the harms. And for people who have had a bad experience, it's kind of a safety net to understand that, okay, this is something that happens to other people. Here's what we can do moving forwards, and here's any advice that we have.
For my next question is, statistics show that youth spend several hours per day on messaging apps. What responsibilities do platforms like Snapchat have when they know when young people are such a large part of their user base?
Honestly, I think that platforms like Snapchat should have a lot more stricter age restrictions, right? Because I know some people who have been on Snapchat since like 10 years old, and obviously they do have this thing that says, oh, enter your birthday, but it's so easy to fake. Anybody can press a number and seem like they're 40 years old when in reality they're very, very young. So I think that these apps have more of an obligation to, for example, you have to provide government ID to get Snapchat or things like that to really just first of all prevent the amount of young and inexperienced and uneducated young people on platforms like Snapchat that has such big risk, which I think is really important. And I also think that platforms like Snapchat should just have disclaimers and have resources and guides because everyone knows the harms of Snapchat except apparently Snapchat themselves because they don't usually address these issues, right? And I think with the responsibility of bearing such a large app that has such big harms, it also comes with the responsibility of addressing them, having safety nets, having, guidelines and strict punishments for people who don't follow the protocol on Snapchat.
All right, my next question is, how can schools and communities better support digital safety and education?
Yeah, I think that for schools, it's so important to embrace this type of education as a core type of content because it's very, unfortunately, affects so many people in their daily lives. And I think that it should be more of a ongoing conversation than an assembly that happens once a month that says, okay, kids, this is bad, here's why, and then you forget about it for a month. I think it should be an ongoing conversation about online harms because often they are constantly evolving, and if they are, so should our conversations. And I think that there also should be youth-led dialogue because often it's a lot of adults presenting on these issues, which is so important for understanding and education. But at the same time, I think there's not a lot of youth representation in such issues, especially people who have experienced these issues and want to talk about them. And I also just think that we should have more the normalization of seeking help, because again, in schools it's pretty taboo often to talk about the experiences, and because of that many people want to hide their experiences and suffer that like alone. But I think it's also important for schools to always be coming out with resources, with support, and telling students that it's okay and that they are going to offer support for them.
What message do you want every Snapchat user our age to hear?
Okay, a message that I would have is just to trust your instincts, and if you don't want to add that person, don't add them. If you feel uncomfortable, just block them. You don't want to take the risk, and your boundaries truly matter. So make sure that you know what you're doing and make sure that you're not doing anything that you're uncomfortable with. And also, you don't owe anyone anything. So you don't owe anyone pictures, even if they really like beg for it, I guess. You don't owe anyone like streaks or to be maintained as Snapchat best friends. And I honestly just think that it's so important to trust yourself in this. So, don't doubt yourself, because if you really doubt yourself and start to trust other people who may not have the best intentions, then often it can come off as a red flag. And yeah, I think it's just important to often be careful, be vigilant, and be cautious, especially online with many other people adding you and interacting with you.
So this is our last question now. If you could change one thing about how teens use Snapchat, what would it be?
I think what I would want to do is just normalize the use of Snapchat for more of like memories instead of communication, because I do think that snapping is super neat. It's sending pictures back and forth, and I hope that it stays as this cool type of memory thing, like, oh hey, I went to this cute beach today, I did this today, instead of texting rapidly, sending explicit snaps very fast. And I hope that it stays, and I hope that it becomes more of a place where people can share memories instead of sharing personal things that they don't want other people to see.
Well, thank you so much for your time and effort for this. We really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you so much.
We just wanted to ask you if you have any tips for us for our episode, which is going to be on Snapchat, or anything about this whole topic in general.
Honestly, I feel like this topic is very, very interesting. So I think it's good that you guys are investigating this, because I feel like not a lot of people fixate on these issues. So I think that's very good. A tip that I would have is, I think maybe focus on different, because I think that we didn't touch much on that in this interview. Focus on like resources for people if they have been exploited, if they are a victim of something that has happened on these online platforms. Like, how can, for example, the law help? How can different people help? And what are some resources that they can access?
Thank you so much. We kind of wanted to focus on Snapchat today because your whole organization was about resources, so we didn't really ask a lot of questions to you. We have one last favor. I need to get like an introduction from you, like who you are. Is it possible if you can do it right now? I'm so sorry, I forgot about it before.
Oh yeah, no problem. Should I just say it right now?
Yes, sorry.
Oh, okay, all good. Okay. My name is Ruhi Yu. I'm currently a student in grade 11 in Vancouver, Canada. I'm the youth advocate of the Center of Exploitation Education Institute. I have been working with them since I was in grade 9, I want to say. And since then, I've done a lot of fundraisers, and I also have social media impact for my own nonprofit organization, which is called the Sunflower Project, if you guys want to check that out. And yeah, I'm very passionate about these issues like human trafficking, exploitation, and very importantly, gender-based violence and feminism. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time one more time.
The law and your rights. It's time to get serious, everyone. Online predation is not just wrong, it's illegal, and your rights both under the law and the platform rules matter. A lot of teens think that Snapchat is safe because messages disappear. But disappearing doesn't mean it's untraceable, and it definitely doesn't mean it's seriously illegal.
In Canada, online luring is a criminal offense. If an adult uses Snapchat to communicate with a minor for sexual purposes, even if nothing physical happens, that's against the law.
And then there's extortion. When someone threatens to share your private images or videos unless you comply with demands. That could be more images, money, or continued interaction. Disciplinary messages don't protect you from that, legally or emotionally.
Non-consensual sharing of intimate images, also illegal. If someone screenshots your snap, saves it, or screen records your video and shares it without permission, that's a criminal offense. Even funny screenshots or forwarding private snaps count.
Snapchat has its own community guidelines and safety policies too. They explicitly prohibit harassment, threats, or sexual exploitation, sharing of intimate content without consent, and luring or attempting to exploit minors.
And Snapchat provides reporting tools. You can report a message, a user, or a story. They may log accounts, remove content, or involve law enforcement depending on the severity.
Outside Snapchat, there are official resources. Cybertip.ca, National Tip Line for Reporting Sexual Exploitation for Children. Victim Link BC, 24/7 confidential support. Your school, local police, or a trusted adults are also good sources.
Reporting doesn't get you in trouble. It protects you and the others. Predators rely on silence. They rely on teens thinking no one will believe them. But the law and platform policies exist because this is real and this is serious.
And remember, it feels wrong? It probably is. If someone pressures you or threatens you or asks for a private content on Snapchat, legally and ethically, you have the right to act.
So here's the takeaway. Snapchat may disappear snaps, but the law doesn't disappear. Disrespecting boundaries is illegal. You have support, protection, and reporting tools.
Staying safe on Snapchat.
Alright, now that we've covered the risks and the laws, let's get practical. How do you actually stay safe on Snapchat? It starts with control, knowing who can see your content and who can reach you.
First up, privacy settings. Snapchat gives you options to limit who can send you snaps or see your stories. Always double check your settings. Make sure only friends can contact you. Don't leave DMs open to everyone, even if it seems harmless.
And speaking of DMs, think about someone who can message you. If someone you don't know tries to contact you, pause before responding. You don't owe strangers attention. And don't feel pressured by streaks for fun conversations. Safety comes first.
Next, who can see your stories? It's easy to forget that public or semi-public stories can reach people you don't know. Use a custom setting to pick exactly who sees your snaps. Remember, predators often lurk in story replies before trying to engage directly.
Don't forget location sharing. Snap Map is a neat feature, but it can also reveal where you live or hang out. If you enable it and set it to ghost mode, or only share with a few trusted friends, safety over convenience, always.
And of course, stranger danger still applies online. Just like in episode 1, who on the other side of the screen matters. Predators may try to befriend you, use humor, or compliment you to build trust. Stay aware and trust your instincts.
Some other practical steps. Don't accept friend requests from people you haven't met in real life. Like, what are you doing? Avoid giving personal information like your school, address, or routine. Report and block anyone who makes you uncomfortable.
And remember, staying safe doesn't mean you can't have fun. Streaks, filters, and stories are part of Snapchat's appeal, but mix fun with caution. Your safety is the top priority.
It's also about habits. Pause before responding to unexpected requests. Keep conversations public at first if unsure, and involve a trusted adult if anything feels off.
And if something does happen, save the evidence. Reach out for support and report it.
So, the key takeaway: control your privacy, control your interactions, and control your environment. Snapchat can be fun, social, and creative. Just make sure you're in the driver's seat when it comes to safety. Closing reflection. As we wrap up today, let's take a moment to reflect. Awareness matters because predators rely on secrecy. The more we understand the patterns, the risk, the tools at play, the better we can protect ourselves and others.
Silence doesn't just hide the problem. It protects predators. Every time someone is afraid to speak up, it gives manipulators more power and more opportunity. Sharing your experience can actually stop the harm before it escalates.
And that's the core of why speaking up saves people, whether it's a friend, a sibling, or a trusted adult. Telling someone breaks isolation. It interrupts manipulation, and it can literally save lives. Predators thrive when their targets feel alone. Episode 1 reminded us, online spaces feel social, but they can hide control. By staying aware, documenting red flags, and reaching out, you can reclaim control and prevent abuse from taking over.
It's also about community. We all have a role in supporting each other, and noticing when something seems off, and guiding a friend in not letting fear or embarrassment silence us. Every story shared is a story that can help someone else.
So, as we close this episode, remember, Snapchat is fun, creative, and social, but knowing the risks matter. Awareness, speaking up, and taking actions or overreactions. They are the tools that keep you safe in our digital world.
You're never alone.
Trust your instincts. Protect yourself and others.
Stay aware, stay safe.
This is Caught in the Web. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode, where we'll explore Valorant and the new dynamics of online predation.